Please join me in welcoming some of the cast members of Scandal, Private Practice, and Grey's Anatomy, and one of the greatest television visionaries of our time, Shonda Rhimes and Betsy Beers are also here tonight. Out first, we have KaDee Lowe's of Scandal.
I come next to you.
You can see next to me.
Thank you.
Tony Goldwyn of Scandal. Kerry Washington of Scandal. Executive producer of all three shows, Betsy Beers. Creator and executive producer of all three shows, Shonda Rhimes.
Very large.
Miss Meredith Grey herself, Ellen Pompeo, is here. And the other half of Grey's Anatomy's true greatest romance, Sandra Oh. I meant Meredith and Christina, by the way. You are the core romance of the show, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, yes.
The core relationship. Next, we have Taye Diggs of Private Practice. And the woman who just tore our hearts out with that clip, my goodness, KaDee Strickland. So my first question is for Shonda and Betsy, and I just have to say, I think for a lot of fans in the room, they're probably experiencing the same thing, that I look at these characters, and you can't help but want to laugh and cry and squee, because they bring out emotions in us, I think, more so than perhaps any other characters on television as far as those romance storylines go. You do TV romance like nobody does TV romance. So I am curious, how do you find that chemistry? Because you really have a knack for finding actors that really capture and captivate us.
Oh, God, I don't know. I mean, I think part of our casting process is, meeting people who, and I feel like every single person on the stage got cast because they inspired me in some way in the meeting or the audition process or however we did it. I met them. I saw something. I got excited. I could start to think of all the possibilities. Everybody up here is incredibly talented. A lot of talented people come in the room. And then there are people who come in the room who just have something special. There's a spark there we get excited about. Betsy and I, don't you think? We look at each other and we go, oh, my God, that's amazing.
It's always actually a really good sign when somebody comes in, and very often we'll do a general meeting as opposed to sometimes people read and sometimes it's a general. And there's this moment where I look at you and you go quiet.
Yeah.
And she starts watching the actor and I start talking.
Like
a crazy one, we call it hand puppets.
Hand puppets, yeah.
So that the actor has something to talk to. So where you're just sitting and staring at them, and it's not too weird for that. But it's an amazing moment. And then usually, it happened with all these guys. They leave the room, and we look at each other, and we just go, oh, my God, that's great.
Yeah, that's perfect. Done. Yeah.
And I think with Kerry and Tony, you have done it again, because I'm 6 episodes in, and I'm on the edge of my seat. They are so completely gripping. Can you talk about casting the two of them and how you knew that would work so well on screen?
I don't know that we knew, except, I knew that Tony felt incredibly right and sexy and vibrant and interesting.
Sexy
I feel awkward because I feel like I can't look at you when I say that. And I knew that Kerry was amazing, and we had this meeting where we had the meeting of the minds. And I know Tony is a director. Tony directed episodes of Grey's Anatomy.
And
Private Practice.
Yeah.
So to me, Tony was this guy who I knew, who had seen casting meetings and stuff like that. So it was really great to sort of get to see the other side of Tony as an actor. And the two of you guys, I don't know. I remember we filmed, there's a certain scene that we filmed, which I can't tell you about. Spoiler.
Say anything about.
But I will say that, like, I had to leave the stage because I felt a little dirty. But
you actually felt a lot dirty.
She wrote it, but she couldn't sit through it.
No. But they're magical together, and it's really wonderful. And when you find that in your characters, it's really fun to play with.
Can I add to
Yes,
about
of course.
Shonda? Because it's something we've talked a lot about, Shonda, as actors.
Yeah.
And I was just talking to Sandra about this. Shonda has this, and Betsy's included in that, has this ability to see things in people that a lot of other people haven't seen before. So everybody on this stage and so many people in our show, and I saw it on Grey's and in private practice as well, that she'll find something in an actor and dig for it. And so the actors on Shonda's shows, whether you've heard of them before and seen them in 20 things over the years, or whether it's a brand new person who you didn't know before, she finds what's really underneath that person, what they have to offer that people haven't seen. And that's really exciting. I mean, I feel so grateful as an actor to have someone who you feel like kind of gets what you maybe have going on, and to see it in other people come out, it's really exciting.
And so she says, I want to see these two doing dirty things.
It's exactly like that. Okay.
So he's really right about that, and I've experienced that firsthand. I really agree with you. Yeah. It's a
Ellen,
good point.
how is it for you? I mean, you have had such a great long-term experience with Shonda. Now, there was a great moment backstage where we were all taking photos, and you said, "No, Kerry, you sit in the middle now because we're here for Scandal." To a large degree, it is premiering this week on Thursday,
10 p.m.
Yay.
10 p.m.
But does it bring back memories for you of when Grey's was first starting and what that whole process was like? And are you excited for these two, for what they have ahead of them? These three, sorry.
I think one of the most amazing things about Shondaland is that it's provided so much exponentially for so many people. It's given so many actors jobs. So many wonderful stories have been told across race, across sexual orientation, again, across age, young and old. Her stories employ everybody. Everybody gets a chance to shine. And in Hollywood, a lot of older actors don't work anymore. And on our show, we have older actors almost every episode get to come and shine again like they did in the 70s or 80s. It's just the number of shows that she has, the number of actors she employs, the number of different people that she gets to shine lights on is something I'm so proud of, so proud to be a part of. And I think that that's why it wasn't so much about me that moment. It was about Shonda everyone has their chance to shine on a Shonda Rhimes show. At different points, we all get to have our moment to shine. And this is Kerry's moment to shine and the whole cast moment to shine. And that's why we're here to celebrate them and the new and there's love for everybody here. So you have to celebrate. We're all part of the same thing here.
Just back to the chemistry question, I'm curious with you, Ellen and Sandra. I mean, the fans are so invested in the relationships in which you play. I don't think that there's any way to drive that home too hard. They're really invested. They're hanging on every scene. And Sandra, I think that last scene in the last episode just slayed people. Where it was Christina and Owen in the bedroom, and he admitted that he had cheated. So they've really been put through the ringer this year, and I want to get to that a little bit. But you both, I think, have found some wonderful chemistry. And can you talk about just how you feel that those relationships have developed on screen and what it's like acting with your other halves?
Well, it's such a blessing to be able to. And it's also a challenge to be able to play one character for 8 years. And I don't know whether you remember in the pilot, but in the pilot, our characters were like enemies. We didn't like each other. And I think that's just the beginning of great romances. And I'm really happy that, you get to spend... I think one of the reasons why people are invested is because there's almost 200 episodes of seeing these two characters. Just for example, just the Meredith Christina storyline. Spend time together, fight, get alienated from each other, are there to depend on each other, are there cracking jokes with each other. And just to be able to come back again and again and again, I think creates that kind of bond. Right. You know, and then at this point, it's really a family. Do you know what I mean? A family in all its ways as well. And that has also been like an amazing experience that I think very few actors are able to experience. And I think, you know, now I feel television in some ways is getting shorter and shorter. And the fact that, you know, our show has been on for 8 years, for me, I'm acutely aware that our show, which also shoots on film, is at the end of an era for television. Wow.
Ellen, what about you? Can you talk about Meredith and McDreamy and just how that you feel that relationship has developed over the years and what it's like working with Patrick now? I mean, you guys have been working together for quite some time.
We have. I mean, I think, you know, what Sandra says is really true. And the thing with a run this long is, like any family, you have your waves. You have waves where you get along and waves where you're sick of each other and waves where people are going through things personally or whatever. You know, so what's an interesting blend of chemistry that is just lightning in a bottle, I guess, is Shonda and the writers are able to write in a way that moves with our relationships. And I think we're so comfortable with each other that we use what we have. We use what we bring. If I'm aggravated in a scene with Sandra about something else, about, you know, I don't know, a hole in my tire in my car or something, I bring it to the scene. And Sandra accepts that. And we play the scene with what we have for each other, not what we expect. And I think the same is true of Shonda, who writes the episodes. She may have had something very different in mind when she wrote the scene. And the way we do it is completely different than what we envisioned, but yet it's honest and it's true, and she lets it fly. And other times I've done things that she envisioned it a different way, and I wasn't in that mood that day. So she asked me to redo it. I kick and stomp and scream and yell, and I have to redo it ultimately. But it's all because she has a vision. Right. Yeah. So I think that when you're in a run, the great thing about the run being so long is you're so comfortable that you use whatever you have, and it's genuine, and it's real, and it's pissed off sometimes, and it's happy other times, and it doesn't necessarily go with exactly what's written in the scene, but it's always interesting when the scene says one thing and the actor's doing something else. It's contradictory, it's interesting, it's unexpected, and
Ellen and I really keep each other going. Like, honestly, we really keep each other going. Ellen and I are actually very different, and like, I won't say how. It's actually just personally we're very, very different. I think our outlook on life is kind of
completely different.
Completely different. And so in that way, we're able to keep each other in check, but also really tell the other person, like from our perspective.
Right. Like relationships of all kinds, whatever the relationship is, whether it's sexual, friendship, whatever, they all take work. Right. And, you know, there's something that has to be nurtured and go through rough times and share the happy times and the joy. And relationships need to be nurtured for actors as well as, you know, people. So it's something that we work on all the time.
For Taye and KaDee, I'm, you know, watching this, the reel of Private Practice, and you know, the show obviously has lighter moments, and then you have these really, really dark moments. And I'm curious for both of you, when you do have those dark scenes, how do you prepare for them? I mean, you both give good cry, and KaDee, my goodness. I can't help myself but to cry along with you. So how do you prepare for those scenes, and do you take it home with you, and how do you not let it affect your life when you're doing some of these darker scenes?
You start out. I'll start out. For me, the great good fortune I've had throughout this process, it's on the page. I mean, you know, particularly with the episode that you showed the clip from, literally every second of that script was clear like that. And I had the wonderful good fortune of having Allison Liddy Brown, who I believe we've all worked with. Who is,
we love.
Extraordinary. And, you know, for me, I took that home because it changed my life. Doing that episode, I still can't speak of it, and it's sort of, you know, it's incredible to be on this panel talking about it. It affected me on such a deep level. With great pride, I say that I felt used. I felt purpose as a human being telling that story, because I know it really helped so many people. And I think no matter where you have to go as an actor, when you are held by a crew the way that I was, when you are trusted the way Shonda trusted me to show up for Charlotte and to show up for my art, you show up and you do it, you know. So what you bring home is a consciousness, knowing that you've done something good, knowing that, for me at least, when I chose to be an actor, one of the great goals for me was to affect change, to have people feel something from what I do. And if I have somebody write an episode like she wrote for me, then I better show up. So it doesn't matter what I take home. I'm going to find a way to shed it in its own natural process, because I got to live with that a full season, which was a commitment Shonda and I had agreed on, because we knew that was the most articulate truth for someone that had been sexually assaulted, and for the community and the entire cast to really respond to that as characters and rally around this human being. That's a story I want to be a part of, and that's something that she and the writers and the producers and the crew allowed me to do for a solid year, and that was an exceptional experience. And I never saw this season coming, and I've had my guts ripped out again. And so it's, you know, for me, it's a wonderful surprise, and I welcome that darkness, because there's always going to be light to go with it. You know, that's part of the gift of what Shonda does in the world she creates. She really allows the audience to go on a ride with a character, as we've seen in every single one of these, and as we will see in yours. As I've seen, because I watched some. You know, you get to take a journey, and that's really great writing. That's great television. That's why people show up every week, and that's why people will move with you when your schedule changes. That's why people will follow everything that she is setting out for us to do, because they trust that they're going to be taken on that journey with a character. And again, you know, the light and shade is what makes a great writer and a great show, and I think she's got a good voice for that. I think we'll keep her. Would you like to speak?
Yeah, what she said. Ask me a different question, but she answered that too well.
I'll ask you a question on my mind. When are you going to give Addison a baby already?
Oh, my Lord.
Fans are asking for it.
I'm not the one to ask. You know who you need to ask.
Well, I would just like to put in my vote, because I would like to say I did actually go trick-or-treating. You're not going to even probably remember this, but I trick-or-treated right next to you and your wife and your son on Halloween. He's an amazing father, Addison. Pick him. Like the cutest. You were with your little 2-year-old. You were carrying his little truck costume. You were making sure he said please and thank you. I was like, I mean, sweetest real-life dad of all time.
Oh, goodness.
But Shonda, what can you tell us about the prospects of Addison possibly having a baby, and perhaps this fine man right here being his baby daddy?
What?
Yeah, Shonda.
What can I tell you? I can't tell you anything, because that would be a spoiler.
But you know what? It's going to be great.
There's going to be some interesting stuff coming up, and it may or may not involve a baby. And it may or may not involve Mr. Diggs.
But I'm still a good father.
You can't take that away from him.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
This is our pain, by the way. Like, we don't know week to week what we're going to be delivering. So we also, I mean, we are very invested in these answers, and we want you to ask more questions like that, because we really have no idea. I mean, I remember one day we were about to shoot a scene on a bus driving through Los Angeles, and we heard a rumor that the new episode was ready, and we were like, bring it down now! So that we could all sit on the bus in between takes and read the next episode, because we're dying to know what happens next. We have no idea.
Well, and the Scandal cast, I mean, it was interesting, because they would come to me and they would say things like, what's my backstory? Like, where am I from? And I would go, I don't know. And they'd say, like, where did I go to school? And I'd go, I don't know. Have I ever been married before? I'm not sure. And I wasn't, because, I mean, the thing that these guys were sort of saying that's lovely for me is I don't go to stage very much to watch things film. I'm incredibly busy, and I spend a lot of time writing. So I'm not really I go to stage very rarely. I think you'd say like almost never.
Only during super important scenes.
Super important scenes I go to stage.
And the ones that leave you feeling dirty.
That's true.
You need to supervise the level of dirty.
I do sometimes. I really do call myself like the chastity police. Like I go to set to make sure everything's okay. But because I don't go to set very often, what happens is I write something on one end. I hand it to the actors. I trust them to do whatever they're going to do with it. And then I always say, like, it goes in one end of the soundstage. It comes out the other end in the editing room. And then I see what they've done with the words that we wrote, that I wrote, that the other writers wrote, that we wrote. And a lot of times it becomes this interesting conversation because I'll write something, and Ellen was right. I'll write something. It'll get played a totally different way than I thought. And I'll look at it, and I'll go, oh, that's what that character's doing. And it'll change the arc of the story. It'll change who they are and where they're going and what's going on. I mean, it's interesting. The entire Burke-Christina relationship was built on the idea that I would go to the editing room and watch like how she handed him a cup of coffee and go, oh, so that's where they're going. So that's sort of how you start to build things, and that's really how I started doing that. It happens a lot. It happens a lot with, when I say like, how is Meredith dealing with being a mother? I'll go and I'll watch, the scene that Ellen played with the baby that plays Zola, and it'll tell me something. It'll tell me where we're going. And so for these guys, they were brand new to this process. And I feel like, I'd hand them the script, and I was like, I want it to be a blank slate. I'm not telling them anything. I want to see what they do. And they would do stuff, and that would inform it a little bit for me, and then that would change things. And so, Tony would ask me questions like, did I do this bad thing or did I not do this bad thing? And some days I'd be like, you did it. And then some days I'd be like, you didn't. Because I wasn't sure.
Big things, like really important decisions about who am I?
Major characters.
So I said to Shonda, I said, okay, I'm going to make up a story for myself, and I'm going to work it all out, and I'll just decide. And then if you decide differently, just please let me know. And that's what we did. So I had like two completely different scenarios on a couple of different issues.
Yeah.
Did it happen or didn't it happen? Did this, and then I'd get an email from Shonda. Definitely.
Yeah. But it would be great because I'd watch what happens in the editing room, and I would see something, and I would think, oh, that's what that character is doing. Like I enjoy the collaboration. It's what's really beautiful. A lot of the stuff that Taye did with Nicanoni Rose was me watching what they were doing and understanding that relationship based on what I saw, and then going back and being like, we have to completely rewrite the next script. And it's wonderful for me. Like, it's really exciting for me, and I feel like it allows the actors a certain level of freedom.
Well, I think it's great. Scandal is finally premiering on Thursday. I know, a lot of the fans are anticipating it, and I think one thing that's really phenomenal about the show is that, and I think people are going to respond to it so well because it still has your trademark excellence in writing, and yet it is a totally different world than what we've seen before. It's really gritty, it's edgy, and it's first of all, no doctors, so that's a big change. But can you talk about what made you want to do this kind of series?
I don't know. I mean, I get excited about something, and then I sort of have to write about it. That's sort of how it works. Betsy Beers introduced me. Betsy Beers is if we don't know who you are, but
hi,
Betsy Beers.
I'll be your hostess tonight.
Betsy introduced me to Judy Smith, who is the real crisis management PR fixer person, who really the character of Olivia Pope is inspired by. And Judy came in and sat down and told us about her life, which included representing Monica Lewinsky, representing the family of Chandra Levy, representing Michael Vick, doing all of these interesting things that ran the gamut. I mean, she literally fixes people for a living.
She fixes people for a living. And the funny thing about it, too, is that initially when I talked to you about this, I said, there's this woman, her name is Judy Smith, this is what she does, and you were really interested in it, but you were like...
I was like, we should get this for somebody else, because I'm not doing it.
This is really busy, and we're busy.
I want to do it.
So we both went, okay, and I thought, And the funny thing was, at the moment she walked in, she sat down, and she started talking, and I looked at you, and you got that look, where you went all silent again. And so I pulled out the hand puppets, and it was like 2.5 hours later, nobody ate.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a courtesy 15-minute meeting. And 2.5 hours
all
later,
starving.
Yeah, literally the meeting broke up because we were going to eat each other. We were so hungry.
Exactly. Your hand looked really good at that point. It was like,
And she walked out of the room, and I turned to Betsy and I said, like, I see 100 episodes, and I have to write this. And that's how you want it to be. I mean, you want to get excited about something and feel like you've got to write this. And even then, I met her, and then it wasn't until, I was like, I'm going to write this pilot. And then a year went by, and I hadn't written anything because I couldn't think of anything good. And then, it was like a year and a half later that I went to Mexico for 4 days and sat down and wrote the pilot because I was like, I've got to get this done.
We hid her.
Yeah, I hid.
She was in a secret location, which is still undisclosed to this day. And you actually percolated.
Yeah, I wrote the pilot. It took like a year and a half to figure out what I wanted to write and then write it because I already have 2 jobs, so it wasn't like I had a lot of time.
Good point.
Yes.
For Kerry, Tony, and KaDee, can you just, because I mean, people haven't seen it yet, could you just briefly talk about who your character is? And Kerry, I have to say, I so want to be Olivia Pope. I mean, she is perhaps the most badass woman who has ever appeared on television. I mean, she's just so powerful and so together, at least from what I've seen. Maybe she cracks a little later on, but just so together and so driven and so smart. Was that part of the reason that attracted you to the role? And what can you tell people about who you play?
Sure. I play a character named Olivia Pope, who's inspired by Judy Smith. So I'm at the center of Pope and Associates, which is a crisis management firm. And in the first episode, KaDee's character has just arrived to work at the firm. And so a lot of actually the first episode is kind of through KaDee's eyes because she's meeting us all for the first time in the way that the audience is meeting us all for the first time. And we fix things. People walk into our office on the absolute worst day of their lives, which is why we rely heavily on our guest stars because they have to be people who can bring that levity of panic, and they walk in and say, I don't know where else to go. I can't go to the cops. I can't go to the media. I never want the courts to know about this. Can you help me? And we do. And my character, before opening this firm, used to work at the White House for President Fitz, and played by Tony Goldwyn. And so you meet in the first episode the people that work in the office and a lot of the people that work at the White House, and nobody is who they appear to be in the first episode. As the season moves on, you begin to understand that the people who have gravitated to this work have gravitated to the work because they have a personal understanding of crisis, because they've each had their own experience with a worst day of their lives, and so they know how to navigate it with compassion and wisdom. So that's what the show is about, yeah. And what drew me to her was Olivia is, and for me it was there from the first episode, incredibly smart and successful and sophisticated and powerful in her professional life. And in her personal life, she is a mess. She is torn and vulnerable, and she needs her own Olivia Pope for her personal life. But she can't do that, so yeah.
What can you tell us about President Fitz?
I'm the President of the United States.
That's cool.
Try and top that. That's cool.
No big whoop.
Yeah. The show is, a big part of the show, obviously, is the cases of Olivia Pope and Associates. And then the other part of the show is Olivia, and we have a very, very complicated relationship.
Understatement.
Olivia used to work for me at the White House, as Kerry said, and
I left for good reasons.
She left for good reasons. I didn't think they were so good, but so you get more and more as the season goes along. Life at the White House gets increasingly complex, and in some cases dirty. Scandalous, yeah. So we can't be rid of each other, and at moments really don't want to be, and in other moments one of us wants to be, the other one doesn't. Yeah, so it fits. It's just a fantastic character, and as Kerry said, you never know what's going to happen. And one of the great things throughout the season was at one point I was totally convinced they were going to kill me off, because I was like, how are you going to get me out of this corner I'm in? I don't get it. And then
we
lo and behold, I
But we didn't.
The character does a 180, so we're constantly doing 180s, our characters.
But I have to say that this man initiated all kinds of trouble in the crew. Because there would be like these knockdown, drag 'em out arguments in the makeup trailer about like, he's awful, he's perfect. And people would be like throwing things at each other in her makeup trailer. And my makeup artist refused to touch him.
She wouldn't talk to me.
She was like, I can't.
Like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I was like, I'm a good father. And the other thing, as I pass the baton, I just want to point out that there was a time, I remember I directed, I think, the 3rd episode of Grey's Anatomy.
Yep.
And I had known Patrick for years, and he'd always been one of my favorite actors. And again, Shonda, like, wrote for this guy in a way and broke him, out. And there were so many of the cast that I didn't know. And when I saw that pilot, as I was getting ready to direct my episode, I'm like, oh my God. Where did she find, who are all these incredible actors? I was so excited to work on the show because the talent was so extreme. And so you're about to see someone who has not been seen.
Yes!
KaDee
Yes!
And KaDee has this opportunity, as I said before.
Is this even
you'll
happening?
Never
Are
have
you
this
introducing me right now?
beforehand. There's, this moment where people don't know KaDee Lowe's is about to end. Because she's really extraordinary.
Truly.
That's really nice.
So who the hell are you?
What am I doing on this stage? I don't understand. All night I've been like, what is happening to my world? This is crazy. Hi.
What you're doing on this stage is, I have to tell you, 2 episodes in, I was like, oh my God, I'm kind of in love with her. Like, serious girl crush, because you're fantastic on the show. And I do love that it seems like you are really our access into this world.
Yeah.
Because you are seeing everything for the first time. And so it's really interesting seeing you as sort of a fish out of water.
This is like a parallel moment right now for KaDee, and this is like Quinn and Olivia Pope and Associates. It's really freaking me out.
So what can you say about who you play on the show?
She's the newbie. She's the rookie. She is, just been placed in her role model of a woman. Olivia Pope is someone she would dream to be and only be lucky enough to work for. And on the first day of the first episode, her dream actually comes true, similar to this. And she gets to work for Olivia Pope. And she asks all the questions that the audience needs to know. She's completely thrown off her rocker. It's the most scandalous world, and she doesn't know what the hell she's doing, and she has to learn really quick. But you do find out, like all of Shonda's brilliant characters, that she's there for a reason, and everything is contradictory, and whoever you meet in the first episode is not who you meet by the last episode of the season. So stay tuned.
The Shondaland logo isn't a roller coaster for no reason.
Seriously.
I mean,
very true.
So what was it like for you when you got the call that you got the part?
We have it. We have it on
okay.
It wasn't a call. It was crazy.
We have it on video.
You have a video of it?
This is the best thing that's ever happened.
It's like,
were there tears?
Roll the clip.
It was.
I wish we had it here.
I wish we had the clip. Yeah.
I can't. I had been in the office for Shonda and Betsy for a while, for a couple years. I had been lucky enough to guest star on Private Practice and had auditioned for Grey's Anatomy and other Shondaland shows. And when this role of Quinn came about, I read the pilot and I was like, oh my God. Oh my God, oh my God. My middle name is Quinn too, just so you guys know. I swear, no joke. And I'm like, oh my God, this is meant to be, but you totally don't want to think that way because, whatever, you don't want to psych yourself out. I auditioned for it with the first scene of the pilot. I don't know if anyone, it's just the craziest, best audition scene ever. And so I do that, and I get a call that I'm going to have to go in again and test. I'm like, oh my God, I'm testing. Ugh. So great. So I go in, and it's Shonda and Betsy and the director of the pilot, Paul McGuigan, who's wonderful, and Linda Lowy, the casting director, and who I love, and they're all sitting there, and there's a chair, and I go and sit in that chair, and Shonda says, I wanted to bring you in and tell you in person that we're not going to test you. And I'm like, oh my God, I think I'm going to cry. Because I just wanted it so bad. And she said, the reason we're not going to test you is because I'm giving you the part. And so I started hysterical crying. And yes.
And we videotaped it.
And I was
so awesome.
So awesome.
It was so awesome.
She then
So we
proceeded
videotaped
to hug every single
I felt like
person.
I felt like Oprah being like, "You've got a job. You've got a job."
That's exactly what it was.
I was sort of expecting you to get a handbag, too.
Oh, my God.
Or like a
car.
trip or something,
Yeah.
exactly.
I asked if I could hug everybody in the room, and they said, yeah. So then I hugged everybody, and then I said, what do I do now? And Shonda said, well, you're going to get a phone call for a wardrobe fitting, and then we're going to do a table read, and then we're going to shoot a pilot. And I was like, we are going to shoot a pilot? This is crazy. And so then the tape is still in existence. My mom watches it 8,500 times a day.
It's totally going to be on the DVD.
By the way.
It
actually had a short viral life.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Because strange people would come up to me and go, oh, my God, KaDee, look. I saw the tape. Thing ever. Yeah.
It was incredible, and thank you for taping it so I have it, even though when I watch it, my stomach is in butterflies because it was just a mind-blowing moment in my life, and thank you for that.
No, we know your character is good, and we know your character is good. What I love about your character is what you were saying about people in the hair and makeup trailer and everyone on the show. Every scene I'm flipping back and forth with you. I cannot tell. So do you now know whether your character is good or bad? I know you can't say.
Oh, I'm good. What else can I say?
Yeah.
He's good.
I actually think that one of the strengths of Shonda's writing is that she's not afraid of the truth, that no human being is good or bad,
So right.
that everybody falls in the gray, and that everybody has moments of questionable ethics, and that we're all trying to do the best we can in the gray area. And so all of these good characters have bad moments, or bad characters have moments that surprise you because they have such dignity and grace. I mean, I think that's one of the gifts of this writing with Shonda, because as actors, we often get a role and are told you're good or you're bad, and then we're looking for the nuances. We're looking how to make that person three-dimensional, but we get that in every script we get. We don't have to do that work.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds like somebody has the video. If you know. For the Grays and private practice people, is there anything that you can tease that's coming up for your characters or for your various relationships on the show? And if that makes you too nervous to do it with Shonda sitting right there, then perhaps Shonda could do it, or Betsy. Anything that you can give us some scoop on what to expect for the rest of the season?
A lot of things are going to happen.
And it's good.
You heard it here first, people. A lot of things.
I'm not going to talk about something because we just filmed it. So all the residents' characters are going through the boards. And I'll just talk about a day that I had with William Daniels, who played my proctor.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just such a marvelous day of work. And you just see really vintage Christina hoisting herself.
For those
on
of you
her
who don't know,
own
William
guitar.
Daniels was the amazing, amazing star on St. Elsewhere. So for us, it was like this amazing moment of that happening.
And it's like a doctor off.
Yeah.
Graduate.
Doctor and they have a doctor off.
Yeah. Yes. So it's really great and really funny. So that's
Excellent.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything.
Everyone's too scared.
You had mentioned there are some things coming up on private practice. You felt like you should sort of alert the fans that there are some big things going down.
I think that the end of the season of Private Practice is very pivotal for a lot of the characters. I mean, we come back Tuesday, April 17th, 10 p.m. A lot of really profound things are happening for the characters. I feel like, the first episode back, the last 2 minutes of that episode, if you miss it, you're going to miss the thing that, one of the things that we've been building to since the show began. So I think you really want to see that. But also for...
What? Wow. Can I get peeks?
Sure. But I think for all of the characters, it's a really dark journey that we're going on at the end of the season. But there are also these really beautiful, really light, really amazing moments where characters, because of maybe something dark that has happened, sort of find themselves rising in a way that they never have. I mean, I feel like we're watching Charlotte King become a mother. which is something that I don't think Charlotte King ever thought was going to be possible for her.
I would watch Amy Brenneman do anything.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And you will be watching Amy Brenneman do many things. So there's just a lot of really great stuff that's happening. And, there's a sense of nostalgia going on at Grey's with as we head towards the end of the season, simply because all of our residents are graduating. They're going to become attendings. They have to take their boards. They have to interview for jobs all over the country. We don't know, where people are going to end up in that sense. And so it's this very nostalgic, sense of feeling of something's being lost for all of them. And it's really beautiful to watch because you're suddenly realizing that, Meredith and Alex and Christina have grown up. Like, they're all grown up, and things are really changing. And there's also some really funny stuff. I think some of our funniest stuff is coming up in the next few weeks. So
Meredith and Derek, are we going to see their dream house? Possibility?
You know what's interesting is that I would have said yes like 3 days ago.
She doesn't know.
But then this morning, I went into the writer's room and I completely dismantled the finale again. So I don't know. I'm being honest. Generally, if I was lying, I would just be like, oh, yeah, everything's all planned, but I can't tell you. No. Seriously.
And when people ask me things and I say I don't know, they don't believe me. But if she doesn't know, I don't know.
I truly don't know.
How far in advance do you all find things out? Is it really sort of as you get the scripts, or are you given a heads up when there's something big coming down the pipe?
It depends on the actor.
Yeah.
Like, Sandra likes to know what's coming. She really likes to know what's coming. And if she doesn't know what's coming, she's in my office staring at me. So I like to tell Sandra as much as possible.
We're talking about this process. It also is a challenging process for an actor to not know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And this is also one of the amazing and challenging things about doing television, because when you first start the pilot, you think it's just a pilot. So as an actor, you have a script and you go A, B, C, D, E. So you know what to do in some ways. And then you have a season, and then you have 2, and then 3. You have no idea what's going to come. So at least for me, thinking about building a character in the ways that I think probably most of us are used to is really, really challenging, because there are certain things that are very integral. Like, if I'm going to make this decision, this is really important for me to know. So sometimes being left not knowing is really, really challenging. So, but that is also a dynamic and a collaborative dynamic that is just a part of the family. Mm-hmm. It's the way she works. So it's taken, I know, for us, I mean, like 8 years to find our shorthand and the way that it works for the both of us. And that's individual for each one of our cast members.
Yeah.
It's funny because on our show, I became Olivia Pope about it and was like, I'm going to fix this. And I started meeting with the different actors and going, what's our backstory? And we started writing our own backstory and then emailing it to Shonda and going, if you don't agree with this or if there's stuff you don't like about this, let us know, but this is how we've decided that our relationship began. And then, in cool, sometimes we'd get an email that said, that's wrong. But also we'd get in episode 3, I mean, I remember there was one moment in particular where in the 4th or 5th episode, Columbus Short, who's brilliant on the show, Columbus Short has a monologue that he does that it's in the 6th episode, that specifically calls upon stuff that he and I came up with about our backstory. And he and I were so moved that it was honored in that way, So yeah, we do all have our ways of figuring out how to do it.
Yeah. And for me, I feel like you don't know what's going to happen in life ever. So I'm okay most of the time not knowing, because I never know what tomorrow will bring today. So it doesn't bother me to work that way. Certain scenes are more challenging than others, but it's easier for me to deal with it that way. And sometimes if I know too much, I'll start sort of trying to piece things together. And then I'll say, but I did that season 6, and that wouldn't make sense because of that. So I get too in my head if I know too much. So I'm better just to have it come and not know and just react to it very spontaneously.
Well, and also if something is huge, which is what I had ahead of me, she asked how I felt about it, which I thought was extraordinary. and very giving, and it also prepared us both for how we were going to treat the subject matter. So there's a level of respect there when it's important. Otherwise, it's shrouded in mystery and you have no idea, and you will literally sit on a panel like this and not know how to answer anything. You don't know. And that can be a fun roller coaster to be on, and I bring it back to that because you can't escape the obvious on the side.
I do feel like everyone's open, like I'm totally fine with people asking. Like you can come to me and ask, and if I know, I will tell you. But if I don't know, or if I kind of know, but I'm not sure how it's going to play out, then I won't. So it's not like there's, like my door is barred and you're not allowed to come in. I really try to respect Sandra's process that she really needs to know. And when I know, I'm like, here's what's going on, here's what we know, and it works. Like I feel like we found a way to make it work.
Yeah, because then what happens is that again, this is the gift of working in television. Your relationships with the writers are so integral because you're constantly inspiring the writers as much as they're inspiring you by you saying their words. It's a very, very alive dynamic.
Now, I should mention we are live streaming this online tonight, and we're taking questions via Twitter. Actually, my Twitter, @KristenDSantos, if you want to send any in. We have one from Julia, and this is for anyone who'd like to take it. Please ask them about fan encounters. Could be one they remember that's the most weird or crazy or beautiful.
I'm out.
Anyone?
I get thank you a lot because of what she gave me to do. And it's like a shorthand between me and people. And it's a real honor and a privilege for someone to relate to the work that way, but it's literally just someone will walk up to me and look at me and say thank you and walk away. And I know what that is, and it's affected me so much. And it's, again, it's a gift, but that, if that's weird, then that's my kind of weird.
Ellen, do you have any?
As beautiful as the moments are, I wish they didn't happen, but because I think we're a hospital show, a lot of people in the hospital watch the show. And for some reason, the instances of childhood cancer is way more than it should be, and I don't know why that is. But I've had more than my share of children either reach out or, have someone reach out. Really sick kids, really, really sick, little 12-year-old kids that love the show and sit in their hospital beds and get their chemo treatments and watch the show, and the show makes them feel that the hospital is an okay place to be. So that's my most moving experiences are with kids who watch the show who are sick. I don't know why there's so many, but more than there should be. I'm better now.
Anyone else? We can move on.
On a lighter note,
nothing like Meredith Grey to drag it down. That's what I do best.
I mean, you're gonna get a lot of us kissing, Shonda's behind because, not a lot of shows. You don't get a lot of people saying things like that about shows that they're on today. You know what I mean? Even with, all the shows that are on cable and whatnot. So that's just a testament to our wonderful Shonda Rhimes. What I was going to say is I get a lot of very manly, masculine dudes coming up to me saying, oh, man, I love you on that show. I mean, my girl watches it. My wife watches it. So she makes me watch it, but you really do your thing, man. You really do your thing. There are a lot of guys out there appreciating Shonda's writing as well.
Lots of tweets coming in now. Please go back to Sandra and ask her about Christina and Owen and what's ahead for them. Is there anything that
don't ask me.
Shonda?
Okay, you know what? I can answer this. Can be okay? Yeah. Okay.
I'm in between them.
Yeah. I've loved playing this storyline. I love working with Kevin McKay. He's a fantastic actor. And I've been really, really grateful for such a rich storyline because Kevin and I have been working together as a couple for like 5 seasons. 4 seasons? 4.
Is it?
4. 4. I think it's literally that much.
Okay.
No,
it's 5, 6,
4. So for 4 seasons, and and this storyline of where they're at in the difficulty of a marriage, and as you said before, with one member of the couple being unfaithful, it's great because you can trace it back to seasons ago. If you take a look at, if you can take a look at anyone's relationship and go back and you have 4 years that you're watching your relationship, you can see places where things were glossed over, decisions were made out of haste or out of some other reason. So it's been great to play a storyline where a couple is coming head to head over things that they haven't dealt with, seeing a couple trying to deal with things. And the question of where they're going, what I can say in a very, very general but truthful way is that hopefully they're going to a place that is truthful for both characters, that is not a immediately solvable situation. So we're going to be in this storyline for a bit.
Yes.
How was that, Mom?
That was good.
Yeah. That was a good one. This is actually a question that we're asking of all of the panels that come here to the TV Academy. And it's for all of the actors, and I love it because we have a fantastic story from you already that will lead right into this.
No way.
But what was your first big break in your career or your first TV job? Yeah, we have yours on video, and we're going to hunt that down.
Oh, yeah.
But if you can think about just your first breakthrough role or your first TV role, and share with us what that was.
Well, my first big breakthrough role was in Ghost.
Is there something in the computers?
Which is why I'm just still convinced he's bad. The president has to be bad. Oh. You were the big murderer.
Indelible.
Yeah.
But that was, I had sort of a similar situation to KaDee, because I'd been, working for a few years, but really struggling, and I had to fight my way in for an audition and my wife was actually the production designer on the film. And she kept coming home at night going, they haven't cast that part. You should go get on your agents. And I said, they'll never see me for that. Never. Why, And so I would call my agent, who at that time didn't even know my name. And, but the assistant knew my name. And after I was so persistent, the assistant said, you know what, I'm going to get you in on that. And so I went in and went on tape for it, and the director wouldn't meet me because he didn't know who I was. And then several months went by, and I got disillusioned with Hollywood, and said, I'm just going to go back to New York and work in the theater. Screw this. This sucks. So I went back to New York, and I was doing a play, and I got a call from my agent. They said, your agent called you. I was like, my agent never calls me. They must have mistaken. And he said, hi, Tony, it's Brian. I'm like, are you sure you meant Tony Goldwyn? And he said, get you that movie, Ghost? They want to screen test you for it. And this was in the dark ages when they actually did real big screen tests. And I flew out on my day off and screen tested, and miraculously, and they had, couldn't cast the part, and they had looked through all their old audition tapes and stumbled upon this guy, and I was just lucky.
You were really good in it. You were very good in it.
That was my first one.
Oh. Kudos to your wife for believing in you to be the murderer.
Yep. She knew.
Spoiler. So funny.
Yeah.
Spoiler. I'm sorry if there's anyone in the room that hasn't seen Ghost yet.
Right.
Spoiler alert on everything these days. Kerry?
Well, I want to out myself about something, especially because one of my best friends from college is in the audience, and we took a class in college in performance studies where we did a comparative study of Rent and La Boheme, and I was really in love with Benny. Yeah. And in love. And we actually, on our set, do Rent all the time. At Scandal, we do Rent. But was in love. Was like, I have to find my Benny. So I'm just going to comment on your big break. Yeah. So, but I don't know. I mean, I feel like I have had one of those careers where I actually have 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 people who say that they discovered me, because I feel like I've had sort of these different moments in my career, there hasn't been one big break. There have been kind of these waves of work kind of building upon each other. So, yeah, and you know, I kind of like it. That I like being a worker. You know, I like that I've just been able to kind of do consistent work. But yeah, I never really had.
So
like
really,
a big
it was Taye
break.
Diggs that discovered you.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. He made me feel like it was possible.
You can add that to your resume. Taye.
I absolutely will.
Discovered Kerry Washington.
I know when I discovered her. Just joking. Just kidding. Not really. But.
Alan?
My story is actually a little bit similar to KaDee's. It was a movie called Moonlight Mile, and thank you.
Directed by Amy Brenneman's husband.
Brad Silberling, exactly.
Small world.
And I had got this call for this audition, and it was from a casting director that I knew from New York who was out in LA, and she said, I have something really last minute, I need you to read. And I said, okay, send it over, and I read it, and I said, you know, I don't think I'm right for this part. I don't know why you want me to come in. And she said, well, they've been trying to cast this part for 6 months, and please, 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 you're the only actress left. Will you please just come in? So I thought, okay, sure. So I had gone in, and I was waiting in the waiting room. And the director and this guy, Jake Gyllenhaal, who I had never heard of, no one had ever heard of him at that point, sort of walked past me, and they were about an hour and a half late. And I didn't want to make them feel awkward or uncomfortable, so as they came in, I kind of like put my head down and didn't want them to like feel uncomfortable that I'd been waiting forever. So I didn't get a look at Jake. So I walked into the room, and I had met Jake a couple of weeks prior on the sidewalk. We sort of bumped into each other, and he told me I was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen, and I like fell to my knees or something, and then I said, he's 12, and maybe we'll see each other again, and I should leave. And there were sparks, but we just bolted. And so then we read for the part, and obviously there was something happening there. And I said to Brad when I left, you know, listen, this is a great opportunity, thank you so much, but this is a huge part, and there's no way the studio is going to let you hire me because I'm absolutely nobody, and this was a favor I did for the casting director, so it was really nice to meet you, and good luck with your movie. And then he called me in the next day, and he said, you know, and I was super nervous, and the next day I had found out Dustin Hoffman, Holly Hunter, Susan Sarandon. I found out who was in the movie. Thank God I didn't know the first day, because the audition I would have blown. And then I went in the next day, and I knew, and I said, listen, don't apologize. It's fine. I know I told you they weren't going to let you hire me. You should have just listened and saved me the gas. And he said, no, I brought you in here to tell you that you have the part.
Aww.
And they have it all on tape. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
You do?
I'm pretty sure.
Did you hug everyone
You
in the
have
room?
that on tape?
I have never seen it, but I'm pretty sure that Brad told me that they had.
Oh my God, I have to see that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm pretty sure they have it. Definitely, well, what's definitely on tape I know is the first day, the audition, when I walked into the room, you know, I said, I saw Jake and I said, oh my God, it's you. And Brad said, Jake said, oh my God, it's you. And Brad was like, roll the camera, roll the camera.
Yeah.
What's going on? You guys know each other? And we were like, no, we don't know each other. We made love to each other without speaking, but on the sidewalk, but we don't know each other. And so it was that kind of thing. And while we're auditioning, you can hear Brad in the background saying, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So it was kind of similar. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
It's a good story. Now,
yeah.
what does your husband now think of this Jake Gyllenhaal?
We saw Jake the other day.
Okay.
You know, listen, he's a handsome guy. Great actor.
So I've heard.
You know.
And so is your husband.
And so is and you know, Jake's 20 years younger than me. So.
Sandra, what about you?
Double happiness?
No, actually, it goes. I guess it goes back. So I'm Canadian, and I had a career in Canada before moving here in '96. So I started out. My big break, I guess you'd say, was this television film for the CBC called The Diary of Evelyn Lau. And it was based on a book written by Evelyn Lau called Diary, Runaway Diary of a Street Kid. And it was a very similar story about her life, for lack of a better word, very similar to the Basketball Diaries. And Evelyn Lau the book was about her life from 14 to 18 being on the streets. Anyway, so I remember this, I was in my very, very first year at theater school at the National Theater School of Canada, and my sister, who was living in Vancouver at that time, someone saw in the Georgia Straight, which is like the LA Weekly, this little ad that said, you know, wanted young Asian actresses between the ages of 14 and 20. And they said that, gave it to my sister Grace, and she gave it to me. And I remember being in my parents' old house, and there was a little bay window, and I'm being on the phone with her, and she says, I think it's about this book. And I remember my insides shaking, just like shaking, and just knowing that part is mine. That's my part. And so she called the CBC and said, you know, eventually they'll have auditions on the East Coast in Toronto. And I auditioned for over 6 months. And I remember when I got that part, oh God, I haven't thought about it in a long time. I was living in a shitty apartment in Montreal. Anyway, so the director called me and he goes, you want to sit down? I'm like, okay, I'm sitting down. And you want to get yourself a drink? I'm like, okay, I'll get myself a drink. And he goes, you know, you got the part. And we didn't shoot the film till like, you know, a year and a half later, but that was probably my first big break, yeah.
I remember seeing Double Happiness.
Oh, God bless you.
I remember seeing this film. I was totally living in Brooklyn. I was a waitress, and I was doing plays and taking all my tip money to pay for the royalties, but we were getting work, you know. And I remember this film because I remember being very sick, and I would watch this thing because it made me happy. And I'd seen this woman, you know, this woman had this just energy coming out of her, this smile, and there was a defiance against the parents. And she had this story in her, which is Sandra's story, that really just blew me away. I was like, who is this person? And then when this all happened in my life, I thought, she used to make me feel better when I was sick. She doesn't even know it. And now you do. But I was so moved by, I'd never seen anybody like you, frankly. Like, I remember at that time just an independent film was taking on such a different life. And so then when Grace happened, I thought, my God, this woman has had such an unbelievable career. Like, you were just vacillating in a way I think that any working actor wants to. And I thought that was just so great. But it really, really always tickles me. And now I'm saying it in a very public way. Like, that was something, yeah, I mean, it's a true story.
I remember being in the room at Gray's and seeing everyone was cast already. And I don't know why I was there, but I was there and I saw her picture was the only one I recognized because I was an avid fan of Arliss.
Oh my God.
And I said, and I knew I got the show, and I was like, I'm going to show with Sandra Oh. She's the girl from Arliss. Oh my God, this is going to be good. I was so excited. I just remember seeing those faces, and she was the only one I recognized, and that was what made me happy. Oh. And the script, of course.
Okay, Taye, if you could.
I guess for me, my big break was how Stella got her groove back with Angela Bassett. I was already in Rent at the time, as you know, and I wish I had known back then. That's funny. But you know, I was with a low-level agency, and you know, you get a breakdown for a movie, and it says what the character is, and I went in knowing that I wouldn't get the part because the description was tall. With dreadlocks. So I'm not about to put on a wig. So I just went in, you know, at the time it was to go in and introduce yourselves, you know, to these casting people, and maybe the next time, you know, they have a part that's more like you, that they'll remember you. So I went in, and a lot of times that's the best time to go in because you're not nervous and you can just be free. So I went in with this awful, just whack Jamaican accent. You know, and for some reason they called me back.
Because Taye Diggs.
And then, well, and then and then it got serious. So then I went, and I remember I went to the library and got this corny ass tape of like African American accents, and it literally was like African and Jamaican. You know, and it was so general. The African accent was like this, and the Jamaican accent was like this. So I went in there. Awful.
That is amazing.
Who I thought I was. But I got past that level. And then it was the screen test. Oh my goodness, it was so nerve-wracking. And the screen test, as Tony said, back then, you know, it was literally, they put you on film, and Angela Bassett was there, and I remember I had to put on a whole wardrobe with this really bright colored tank top, and they had palm trees everywhere on set. And you know, I'm supposed to play this really smooth, young but smooth cat, and I thought I had it, you know, acting across from Angela Bassett. And I remember looking in her eyes and trying to be suave. And there was it was like a glass or a cup on the little bar. Oh, yeah. And I went to grab the and as I'm talking, I like, because you don't know how nervous you are until, it's like when you're drunk, you don't know how drunk you are until you stand up. I didn't know how nervous I was until I grabbed that cup. And Angela Bassett was so sweet at the time, like, put your hand up. So she saw my hand and she took it and just started rubbing it. And I was so thankful. So she doesn't, I gotta thank her for that. So you know, I had the screen test, and I went back home. And I remember I was in our little apartment on the Upper West Side, and I was all by myself, and I got the call, you know, you got the part, and I remember jumping on my bed and then calling everybody I knew, but nobody was home. Nobody was home, so I was just running around the house really happy that in a movie with Angela Bassett. So that's my little story.
That's a good one.
All right, KaDee, so transition us from you working in Brooklyn.
Oh, I was in Brooklyn.
To this.
No, well, I'm so tickled by this story. I was the kid in South Georgia in a town with one traffic light that stumbled upon Annie Hall one day on television and was like, I want to go there. You know, so I knew I wanted to go to New York, and I had the good fortune of actually waiting tables, and an agent's assistant came in, and we just started talking. And she said, do you have any tape? Because she said, are you an actress? I said, right now I'm your waitress. Because that's a very tricky question when you're at that stage in your life. You're not sure how to sort of hold court for yourself. And she started talking to me, and I had done a short film when I was in college that had gone to the Hamptons Film Festival, and I was very proud of it. And ironically, the woman she worked for had been to that Hamptons Film Festival and seen that short film. Yeah. And I sent the tape to this very kind woman who was her assistant, and she showed it to her, and she said, hey, there's that girl. And so the first audition I got was for Woody Allen. And no kidding, I met Juliet Taylor, who is one of the poobahs in, you know, our world, and I'd gone in, and, you know, I was green as a gourd. I had no idea except that I loved my job, I loved what I did, and I knew what I wanted. And I read a generic scene, as you can often do with very prolific writers, where you have no idea what you're there for or why you're there, but you know that it's for Woody Allen. And so I went in and I did it, and then a few days later I had to go out of town, and they said, Woody Allen wants to meet you. And I was like, but I have a flight to catch. Like, I didn't know, like, you know, how this, I was like, but I have to get on a plane. I'm supposed to go to Chicago. I need to get on the plane. And they said, Woody Allen wants to meet you. I said, okay, I'll be there, and I'll go and catch my plane. And I went in, and I remember, you know, I'd read all these stories, and I'd had the good fortune. I'd actually met Sam Rockwell, who Tony's directed, and a friend of hours said, you know, Sam worked for Woody. So I was like, what was your experience when you auditioned? You know, like all this stuff started happening very quickly for me. And I read everything I could about what Woody Allen did in an audition process. And I literally heard a story about how a woman walked into this building where Woody meets everyone and stood on the stairwell and was talking to Juliet. And Woody walked by and said, hello, nice to meet you. And that was the audition. So that's, you don't know what you're going to get with him. And that continues because you don't get a script unless you're the two leads, and I was not in this process. So the whole time I had no idea, which is probably why I do all right with you, because I started out that way, where you don't, it's a leap of faith every day. But I went and I met him, I caught my flight, and I got the part. And it was one of those things where you're literally on set. Again, you don't have a backstory, but you know that as this little girl in Georgia, you're suddenly sitting there and Woody Allen is giving you some dialogue and you're just showing up and you're living in every breathing second of it, and it was great.
So what happened in the room? You're in the room with
In the room with Woody Allen. Honestly, it was so dark. It was like kind of looking out at you guys because you can't see anything right now except a little bit of form. And I walked in, and he's a very tall man, as we've all seen. He made me feel tall. And we walked in, and he was like, it's very nice to meet you. I was like, it's very nice to meet you. And I walked, and I sat in the chair, and this was a scene that I had read before, and I was so grateful for that because I had no idea what it was going to be. And I remember I'm sitting there, and I'm reading with her. She's right there, and I see this happening, like peripherally. And it's him pacing. And I know what it is, and I know that I'm supposed to be completely focused and present with the person I'm in the scene with, and all I'm thinking is, it's Woody Allen, he's pacing, and I'm talking in a room. You know, and it's like that whole thing that you're really just trying to be in the moment with the person you're with, but you're the kid from Georgia at the end of the day who, like, gets paid to do this now. And in that moment, I wasn't even paid yet, but I was that part in front of Woody Allen. And that was it. And then, you know, you get the call, and those moments they never leave you. They never leave you, and they're the stuff that dreams are made of. So I rally for you and the fact that this is your entree, lady, because it never leaves you. It's really great, these opportunities, and that was my beginning. And, you know, I've been fortunate to be a working actor ever since, and there are all kinds of waves and incarnation that happens, and I hope that, you know, when I'm one of these people in my elder years, I get to say, hey, I'm a part of this business still, and I do believe that's true. I think that's sort of a commonality on the stage. You've seen so many different versions of all these actors, and to speak to what you were saying earlier, there is something so exceptional about living with a character for years at a time, and it is something you don't see every day anymore. Television doesn't necessarily work that way, and art has changed so much. When we started out, our first season was a writer's strike. I mean, that was a remarkable time to come into this business for me, really fully come into it. And the fact that we're still around doing what we love, and that we have this unit where we work that is just so fluid and so fun, and we still have fun. And it's 5 years of playing Charlotte King, and I still am learning who she is every time I get a script. Like, that is remarkable. And that is something I'm very grateful that we get to sit up here and celebrate, and I wish the same for you.
Right.
So what do you got next?
That's a good wrap-up right there.
That was, again, an Academy-supplied question. I have to say, we unearthed some very interesting information here from that.
Yeah,
that was very cool. Getting a lot of love on Twitter for you guys right now. Everything from so great to see how much they all enjoy their work, such wisdom and passion, to how is Ellen so perfect? How is Sandra's hair so perfect? Will Taye marry me? I'm pretty sure that's a no. We only have 5 minutes left, and I just wanted well, actually, we only have 1 minute left. But the question that's still being thrown at, please go back. Can you give us anything on Meredith and Derek and Charlotte and Cooper?
I mean, I haven't seen the final 2 episodes, so I really honestly do not know what happens in the season finale.
Yeah, so don't ask her if you see her in the grocery
I know that Shonda usually writes the finale.
I'm writing the finale.
Which, it's going to be good no matter what it is, so who cares? Let's just wait.
Good answer.
Do you have in your mind how you would like, you know, in the end, to either one of you, how you would like Meredith and Derek to end up?
No, I mean, you know, I always say this. People always ask me this question, and honestly, I have no control over what the story is, so I can't have expectations, because then you're setting yourself up for frustration and failure. So it works for me to just trust that it's going to be, I know it's going to be good. Trust that it's something that I feel like I can do well. And I have to be up for the challenge, whatever it is. You gotta, whatever, pitch you get thrown, you gotta find a way to hit it, so.
Charlotte and Cooper, can we say anything? Some happiness for the newlyweds, maybe?
I think that, they're going through a huge transition right now, those two. I think I said earlier that Charlotte King's on her way to figuring out how to be a mother. And I think that's a really profound change. And it's a really profound change from, think about how Charlotte and Cooper began. There were two people who met on the internet, had a lot of strange and interesting sex, wore a lot of kinky outfits.
Oh my God, cake frosting, for God's
sake. The
sake.
cake frosting outfit. I have a picture of that, so it's just hilarious. It's one of those moments where I was like, I can't believe we just did this and got away with it. It's awesome. But they've really grown, and I feel like Meredith and Derek have really grown. You've seen these people grow together in ways that are really, really interesting. I don't know, it's interesting. Meredith, really became a mother this year. That's sort of a running theme that I've got going, I guess. But they're going in really beautiful places. I don't want to tell too much. I don't want to give too much away.
Well, what I would like to tell everyone is to make sure to watch Scandal on Thursday. And I do want to say, I think, by the third episode, you are going to be completely obsessed with the show. It is absolutely fantastic, and I know we'll be seeing a lot more of you. And congratulations to you.
Thank you.
But thank you all for being here tonight.
Well, we are airing after a brand new Grey's,
yes,
which comes right before us, and then on the 17th, a brand new Private Practice.
Yes. Yeah. So tune in for all of that. And thank you all for being here. We really appreciate it.
Well done.
Have a good night, everyone.